So if we talk about the anatomy, general anatomy, this is, you see the animal has the three body parts. The one is called proboscis, or other way it is also called prosome. The second part is called the collar or mesosome, because it is in the middle, meso. And metasome means the distal part is the trunk or the abdomen, right? So prosome, mesosome or metasome are the three parts of the body. So here you see that this is a proboscis, and then proboscis is connected to the abdomen through the collar. So in the general structure, you see the proboscis is basically a muscular structure. Right, you see the proboscis. This is the muscular structure which has the circular muscles, a layer of the circular muscles, and the layer of the longitudinal muscles. So when the circular muscles and the longitudinal muscles contract alternatively, they produce hydrostatic movement of the animal. Right, so we will see when we go towards their feeding mechanism that how they protrude out and how they move along the sand surface using these muscles. Then this collar has an empty shallow cavity which is normally filled in with the water, and this proboscis has another cavity which is filled with the water too, and it has an opening proboscis pore through which the water enters into this cavity. This cavity does not have any connection with the rest of the body cavity, right? So because the animal body is divided into three parts, its cavity is also divided into three parts. So the first cavity is in the proboscis, second is in the collar, third one is in the abdomen. All right, so this is the animal's body. The whole surface of the body, animal's body, is covered with the cilia. So the cilia, like the hair-like structures all along this epidermis. So these cilia are basically waving around. They are waving to produce the water current, and water is moving along the body of the animal, right? And the mouth is in between the proboscis and the collar, which can be opened by protruding out or extending the proboscis. Once the proboscis moves out due to the circular and longitudinal muscles, the mouth becomes open, and this water which is passing along the body can go inside the buccal cavity, passes through the collar region, right, and comes out from these pharyngeal pores, right? So the water flows in this direction, and at the same time, what happens that all the microorganisms of planktons or the animal food or organic matter is basically filtered within this pharyngeal basket-like structure due to the presence of endostyle and the mucus inside, and then it is moved towards the abdomen, towards the intestine for further digestion. However, water gets out of the body. And at the same time, because there are blood vessels present in all this region where the water is passing through, right? So these blood vessels simply diffuse in the oxygen from the water so that it can be cleansed, and also diffuses out the waste material into that water. When the animal does not want to feed, it just retracts its head or proboscis back to block that opening, and mouth is closed, right? So this is the mechanism of feeding. So now the question is that how do they bore into that sand, which is relatively harder? So they basically uses the hydrostatic skeleton. The cavity within the proboscis gets filled in with the water from the outside, and then the circular muscles contract tightly to make a force, and it becomes rigid, and they can dig into the sand. Right, and then they have a stomochord. So, like I said, the stomochord was initially considered as then homologue of the notochord, but now it is not considered as the homologue of the notochord. It's actually the stomochord. Here you see. So this structure basically is the stomochord, and this is an extension from the intestine. Yes, it is a part of the intestine which is extending towards the proboscis, and the spaces between are basically hardened due to some filling materials, and they are providing skeletal support to keep that proboscis tightly attached to the rest of the body. And the trunk is the longest part of the animal's body that contains pharynx and the gill slits. It also contains esophagus and long intestine and terminal anus. and it also contains gonads, blood vessels, heart, and all body viscera that is present in the trunk. Gonads are basically reproductive gonads. These are dioecious animals. They have both male and female gonads within the same animal, and there are two rows of them, and have a true circulatory system where the blood flows within the blood vessels from one end of the body to the another end. And basically, there are two vessels, one on the dorsal side and one on the ventral side. The blood of these animals is totally pigmentless. There is no hemoglobin present, so they are basically transparent or colorless and cannot absorb oxygen or other gases into it. Now, this is the time for the question. Can you think of a reason why that blood is transparent, and if they do not have any pigments in it and do capacity, how the animals would have gained their oxygen into their blood?